feel like I just got blasted.
We're in a rocket ship going off into outer space. We're here.
Oh, we made it. All right. So fun. Well,
So good.
welcome.
I know. It's like we're so used to being on stage, and now it's like, okay, well, we're going to talk, and hopefully there's people out there in the interweb listening.
Exactly.
And we can have a good conversation.
And we just have fun together, so it's going to be a blast anyways. And we're going there today. So let's just, I guess, get a move on. I know we both came into this and it was like a hot mess. Both of our babies are screaming, crying, and thankfully have been taken on a walk.
Thank you, Grandma. It was just so like we were a little like, did you get the right link? But we're here. And we're you know, a little extra under eye concealer. So just for context, Lexi and I are both mamas of 2 babies, and we both have toddler girls and COVID baby boys who are only a couple months apart. So a 5-month-old and a 7-month-old. And Lex, why don't you get started, explain who you are, and then I'll just jump in after.
Yeah, so my name's Lexi, and I'm the founder of Wax On Laser and Wax Bar, as well as South Intimate Skincare line. And Wax On, really, like, we just aim to provide the most exceptional hair removal experience in a clean, safe environment, and a welcoming environment for those types of services. And we are open, 13 locations and growing. And how about you, Nikki?
I am a Pilates teacher, and I am the creator of something called the Belle Method program for women that combines Pilates and pelvic health. And we had like 12 locations across Toronto, and we actually just moved everything online because of COVID. So we are offering virtual classes right now for pregnancy, postpartum, and beyond. So basically, if you have issues peeing your pants, which we're going to talk about today, diastasis recti, and if you are just looking to really feel strong and confident, we'll help you with your fitness programming and all that.
So actually, it's perfect segue because Nikki and I connected, not through my bladder issues, but basically it should have been. So through my pregnancy journey, which also was Nikki's with baby number 2, I'd actually invited Nikki to come in for a wax on video that actually Nikki just posted today on her Instagram, so you can check it out. But it was all tips and tricks for during pregnancy and postpartum and into like labor. It's honestly like the Belle Method is incredible. So you should definitely check it out. And we connected and we literally hit it off, like didn't miss a beat. Both that, of course, that we have like daughters and then soon to be sons, which we didn't know at the time were COVID babies. What a different world that was. Clark and Hendrik, but we hit it off. And I think in the first like 5 minutes, we immediately went into a category of discussion that was
vaginas. It was like tearing. You're like, I was like, you're gonna need to do it like this. You take your finger, and she was like, wait, time out. Like what? And so yeah, we started diving right into the juicy stuff.
Yeah,
and then we're like, oh, we need to do this more because so many women have questions, right? Like your clients are. You were saying how like, and this is so true. Like you go to see, you're getting waxed. Like there's a lot of nakedness happening and women are like, hey, like they're asking their waxologist, you call them waxologists, right? They're like, is this normal? Like, is this normal? You know, you're always like, is this normal? And I get that all the time too from my clients. And they're like, is this normal? Like I'm having this discomfort or this sensation or this, you know, and a lot of it is about like below the belt. So people are always like, this might be TMI, but, and then there's this feeling of shame and isolation and loneliness because they're just like, I think like I'm embarrassed to talk to people about this, but I'm going to ask you.
Exactly. And I think that really is the basis of why we wanted to start our podcast. We go there and really go there. And with the message being today, what we want to discuss is like, you're not alone. And that whole normal thing is like not normal to not feel normal. You know what I mean?
Totally. And there's no such thing as normal. Like I think we're all having such a shared experience.
Yes.
And so that's why you kind of broke the internet with that photo, which we're going to talk about. So Lexi posted this photo of herself after it was the first time she'd gone for a run postpartum. And like, we're not talking a little. No, I reposted it today and I know you did too. We're talking, her leggings were soaked.
Soaked. Yeah, they're drenched. Yeah.
Not from sweat. Not from sweat.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I peed my pants. For anyone who missed that, I peed my pants. So for all you out there, because we know from the reaction that I got, there was a lot. And so backing it up, I did go for a run and I probably, knowing my condition and being that I know Nikki, and I'd seen a pelvic floor therapist, I was told not to run. Like, I just was told not to run. And I needed it. I had to get a sweat. I needed it for my mind. And so it was my own fault. But I didn't think I would actually pee my pants to that extent. And I was running down Yonge Street with my husband at the time. And anyone who's had this happen knows that it's not like the feeling that you're peeing your pants. It's just literally like pee is just like coming out of you. And it does feel like a lot. And it was a lot. Let's be real. But I was coming up my street and I see like 4 80-year-old people just looking at me. And I'm like, hey, I'm with the gang. How's it going, guys?
You shouldn't laugh because it's so common, and it's like, but yeah, it's definitely something that I'm glad that, you know, you're open about, because it's true. So many people like responded to your photo and they're like, me too, right? I thought this was normal.
Exactly. And I think that was the biggest thing for me, because actually I'd been going since I was 18 years old. I had actually dealt with these issues. And like, whenever I do something really high intensity, like running a race, I'd pee my pants a little bit. And so obviously it got worse. But I think the key messaging in this all is you're not alone, one, but also that it's normal, but it's not normal to go your whole life and not fix it, because there's ways that you can fix it. And I think that was the message that when I received, I was like, oh my gosh, this is such a relief, because you feel like you are just like, I feel like it was going to get worse and worse and worse.
Yeah. It doesn't get better. Like, and this is meaning that like, if you don't do anything about it, you know, like it's one thing to try to address it in your mid-30s. If you wait, you know, until you're post-menopause, it just gets harder. So we want to empower women to be like, hey, don't be ashamed about it. But yeah, there's a lot that we can do.
And I guess, Nikki, like just quickly, what are some of since we know this is such a huge thing and you are an expert in this field, what are some of the things that people like myself could do so that they can not pee their pants?
Yeah, well, first of all, I would certainly recommend, and I think most people watching this will agree, you need to see a pelvic floor physical therapist, or physiotherapist, as we call them here in Canada. They are fantastic practitioners, and I know you're already seeing one, but not only that, girl, you have to do your homework. Like, you can't just like, and she was like, guilty. I'm like, have you been doing your exercises? You're like, you know, so you have to do your homework and really do your best to know that like, it's boring. Like, it's fucking boring. Like, I'm going to be honest, like a lot of the exercises are boring, but it will make a big difference. It does make a difference. And I have been doing it
more often, and I did go for a run, and I didn't pee my pants. So I think that I'm getting better, but I'm going to keep continuing on that path. So,
and we try to make the exercise, and also side note, like you might not need to be doing Kegels, right? Like we know from your, you know, and I now know I'm intimately acquainted with Lexi's pelvic floor. More on that later. That's an episode actually. Get ready for that. But basically, she's too tight. And so, you know, you Kegeling, girl, is going to make it worse. So
exactly. I know. And that's the other thing. It is such a big misconception that people need to know. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I just bared my, you know, my pants. There we go. So I think it's only fitting that we go over to Nikki.
Okay.
And we talk about hemorrhoids.
Yeah, let's go there. Okay. So I have a funny story. So with my first daughter 2 years ago, I remember being in labor and pushing, and I was so like, most of us are so afraid of tearing, right? We're like, and I was like, I am going to have a birth goddess. I'm having an orgasmic birth. I am going to breathe this baby down. And I was literally like, okay, it's time to push. And I was like, like did not want to put any downward pressure on my pelvic floor. And finally my doula in the moment was like, Nikki, you need to use your core. And this was after about an hour. And I remember being like, right. And all of a sudden that baby came right out, but came out really fast because I was like, finally, like, you know, push the baby out. So I was left with some hemorrhoids, and I had never had them in my life before. And they were like pesky little buggers. Let me tell you, like 6 weeks, I would say I was struggling with them. And I had a friend of mine who actually Lexi knows, who's had 4 kids. And she was the one who was like, oh, my hemorrhoids. And she was like making jokes like about naming them. And I was like, them, like plural, like what are we talking about? You know, of course, then you go on Google and you're like, oh God,
no.
Like, no. And so of course I have this baby, I push this baby out and I have freaking hemorrhoids. And I remember going to a mom group, and this is of course 2 years ago, so pre-COVID. And, you know, as always always freaking late because I was exclusively pumping. That's a whole other thing. So like I could not get my shit together. I had to like time the pumping and the going to the class. So I was always like doing a Seinfeld Kramer entrance. Like everyone's like sitting in the circle nicely. And I literally like a hot mess show up and I'm like, yeah, there's like spit up on my shirt and everything. And I will never forget this. I walk in and there's like a circle of probably 30 moms. And I walk in and I'm just like, you know, hey, and everyone turns to me like record scratch and they're just like, Nikki. And there was a physiotherapist there who I actually knew from our industry, but there was a physio there trying to like educate everybody on mom issues and pain and whatnot. And everyone had gone around the circle and talked about like, well, what hurts? And everyone was like, my shoulders are sore, my back's a little bit sore. And like everyone is like staring at me, right? Because I've totally just interrupted the conversation. And they're like, Nikki, your turn. What hurts? And it just came out. I was like, I have hemorrhoids. My ass hurts. And I swear to God, half the room was just like, and the other half of the room was like, I see you, girl.
Yeah. I got you.
And I was like, I found my people. Like the people after and like the break came up to me and they were like, do you know? And they were like, these are the remedies that you need. And I was like, you know what? This is why is this so shameful? Like it's so common. I actually did post like a poll on my stories. 87% of women have experienced hemorrhoids either during or after pregnancy. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, no, why don't we talk about this? And so again, this is a topic on our podcast.
Yeah. And it is so eye-opening because same, like we had posted a blog and it was like one of the most read blogs and you think like, oh, who wants to read about hemorrhoids? But because it impacts so many women and it's so crazy that we're so self-conscious about it. And I think that links really well in the weirdest way, but especially in your situation of the circle and the inner circle. Oh, God. And very much feeling on the outside of the circle. That comes with like mom shaming. And I know like, Nikki, you do such a good job on the Belle Method, like just talking about the realness of mom guilt, mom shaming, and all that is encompassing, especially as working women, in addition to like being moms and all of that goes with it. So like, what are some of your experiences, I guess, with that, the outer circle, I should say?
Yeah. You know, it's funny. I think a lot of it was also like my own insecurities. And so I would take other people's comments as like a criticism, even though maybe it wasn't meant to be. So as I mentioned earlier, I was exclusively pumping with my first daughter. We tried all the things. And thankfully this time I've literally done nothing different. And my son is like, there's no issues, but she just wouldn't latch. And basically I would pump. And so I remember going to like a mom event. It was like a big kind of conference convention, like trade show thing. And there was this tent set up for where you're meant to like breastfeed. And at the time I was still trying to get her on the breast, but I also had pumped milk. And I remember going in and like sitting in the tent and bringing out like a bottle. And I was like told like, you need to leave. Like, this is just for breastfeeding moms. And I was like, it's pumped milk. I'm sorry. Like, I remember feeling so, and I think I was only like 5 weeks postpartum at that time. Like it was a big deal to get out of the house. And I just remember being like, here's my boob. Like, I'll wet my boob. I'm trying, but like, I have this bottle as backup. And I know it was meant to be like, we need this spot for someone who's going to be, because it was like all about having privacy for people who wanted it while breastfeeding. But I remember feeling like so shitty because I was like, I am not in the club of being a breastfeeding mom, even though I was so desperately wanting to be in that club. So that was my experience, probably the one that's most visceral that I can remember. But there have been other things that you and I have both experienced as it relates to being a working mom and not having mat leave and like going back early. So like, what would people say to you, Lexi?
I mean, yeah, for me, both my mat leaves were like totally messed up. Like I had like the grand plan of thought I had everything in order. Piper, I was literally in the labor and delivery room on the phone with my lawyer. Actually, Adam's like, what are you doing? And my lawyer was like, are you in labor? Yeah, but we need to get this wrapped up. So I got a mat leave to tend to. And it did not go as planned. And the whole beginning of her babyhood, I guess, was a very busy and very stressful time for me. And so it was almost, it's like it links back to almost like this thing, like the stories that we're telling ourselves or making up in our own heads, right? Because I think it comes from a combination of the mom guilt equaling like feeling mom shamed, and the like, you know, it's, and actually I can say this now having Clark, and I think maybe, I know this was a big thing for me because I had to pump, basically like pretty much only pumped Piper as well throughout breastfeeding her. Like she would pretty much only take a bottle. And so it then fast forward to Clark being born literally COVID, like his birthday is March 13th. We closed our locations on the 17th, 16th, 17th. So it was like absolute, and I had again felt like I had it all figured out for some time spent with him. And it very much did not, again, work out that way. However, the weird thing, and I think this is where I really resonated with like the mom shame and mom guilt, is it was so much less stressful from that standpoint because I wasn't missing anything. I wasn't seeing anyone. I wasn't getting the like, where's Clark kind of thing when the baby's not with me because I've just come from a meeting or whatever. Like, and that's what killed me, I think, was like missing music class and missing these things that even as much as I'd commit to being at, I couldn't make it. And so for me, like the mom shaming and mom guilt almost went like hand in hand
for sure. I think that's really common, right? Like we're so sensitive to what we perceive to be our own weaknesses. Yeah. In a way, even though like I don't see that as a weakness. I'm like, you're a badass mama. Like you're doing, like, I'm sorry, you just had a kid and now you've got to close down because of a world pandemic. Like, and you're trying to manage that and not lose your mind. Like that's huge.
I mean, I lost my mind, but it's still good. Yeah. I mean, at least I could drink at that point a little bit.
Well, this is the thing. I think the whole idea is that when we start to talk about it, like it kind of destigmatizes it, right? Like I got the same thing. I went back to teaching a couple months postpartum and people would be like, well, where's the baby? And I'm like, well, I'm pretty sure you'd be mad if I brought my 4-month-old to this Pilates class because like I wouldn't be giving you a lot of good instruction. Like, you know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, like you would not be getting any.
You're not getting, it'd be a little distracting. Yeah. So I think we need to talk, and that's again, like to bring it back to the podcast. So I'm really excited to kind of touch on a lot of these topics and finally like help women feel a little less alone. Because you and I both felt alone in some, you know, aspects of our motherhood journey. And so what can we do to try to like bring more community and more support to each other, right?
Exactly. Like 100%. I think it's so important. And I think like the most important takeaway we go there in the podcast, like we interview experts. So it's taking like your concerns and questions and bringing in like experts in the field to answer and normalize the things that we're feeling. And I think that that's been like the biggest takeaway of the interviews we've done so far, and we'll be launching the podcast soon, but we've done about like, I think 6 or 7 interviews already. And so in the first full season, for me, it's really been understanding and learning that there's no normal. So like we said, there's no normal. There's no normal looking vagina. There's no normal body type. Like there's no normal birth story or like, you know, or mat leave or like postpartum journey, motherhood journey. Like it's all not normal, but what you're feeling, I think, is normal. Yes. And that together, I think that is something that we really need to normalize. Like you are not alone, and we need to like through this make sure that, and that's our goal. Like Nikki and I know I speak for us together that like our goal is really to allow women and moms. We speak to both and dive into all those subjects and you know, sex after baby, but also low libido and linking that to hormones of either a mother or a non-mother. And I think it's just our goal is really to make women feel less alone and more educated and feel like they have more knowledge about their own bodies, right?
Absolutely. I mean, we've talked about, we recently did, my favorite one so far was the one on labiaplasty, because I was like, I have so many questions. Like, this is a thing, and like, it's becoming more and more of a trend. Like, I have questions. It doesn't matter if you're considering it or not, but like, let's talk about it. Cause like, I want to know, I think this is really interesting conversation. Right. And like libido after baby, like what's normal? Like I have zero desire to have sex with my husband. Does that mean that I'm bad? as a mom, or am I, I'm not living up to my end of the deal? Like, you're like, no, you're taking care of this little human. He's, if you're nursing, you've got your hormone levels are completely out of whack. Like, your prolactin's going to suppress other stuff, your estrogen, you're going to, vaginal dryness, the whole thing. My God, I'm giving too much away.
No, the whole thing. But that for me was a big eye opener, I think, was like sex after baby, because you understand the physical, obviously, you've just pushed out a baby. But the actual emotional side of it and like feeling like you actually want to have sex again for the first time, second time, third time, 10th time, like all of that. And it varies, I found, also from baby to baby. So it's, that is all so real. And there's lots of, and so through the expert, there's lots of tips and tricks that come out of our We Go There podcast episodes. And that's really helpful. Like, I find I learn so much every single time. And if you have any questions, like, you guys can send them through to us. Yeah, please. Or also just, comments like, been there, I pee my pants too. That would help,
Yeah, I think this is cool. I really don't know if like there's a chat function here, but if people even have suggestions or things that they want us to cover, I'm happy. I'm excited to kind of put that out there and see what kind of questions and suggestions come through, because we've had so many ideas just come to us organically. We're like, we should do that, or we should interview that person, or
Exactly. Oh, here. So when you become a mom, you feel like you're in a special club, then you realize moms are super judgy. We need to be supportive. We really do need to be supportive.
We do. And who wants to have sex? Did you guys see that meme? They're like, oh, all these COVID babies. I'm like, those are only for first time parents. If you have a toddler at home during COVID, no one's having sex.
Yes. How you survived exclusive pumping, Nikki? Yes.
It's hard. That's a hard one. It's really hard. Actually, I had someone DM me yesterday about questions about it, and I gave her a voice note, and she like voice noted back to me, like crying while pumping. I could hear like the pumping in the background. Like, it is a lot of work, and there's this constant feeling of redundancy, because I remember times when I had the hands-free pumping bra on, I'm pumping and trying to feed my kid with the bottle. I'm like, the milk is right here. Just take it right here, but like, it's just all the steps. How do you do it? You know what? You, first of all, realize you're doing your best. And if you want to stop, like, not that you need my permission or anyone's permission, but like, you can stop. It's okay. And I had guilt about stopping at 10 months, because I could have kept going. I mean, when do you know how to stop, right? Or when to stop? But I was just mentally done. I was like, I am done. I want my boobs back. I want my body back.
And that's what you
do your best. You pump. I mean, there's other tips about I could share with you. You can always DM me, but basically, like, frequency, eating well, enough water, all these things can certainly help. But I'll just say that it's not easy.
And I think that for me also because when I was with Piper, I was back to work and we were in offices. So I was back in offices so early, and I felt so much mom guilt about not being with her, that breastfeeding, and it was pumping mostly, like, was the one thing I felt like I could only do. And so I held on to that for as long as I could, and until I and I get emotional weirdly talking about it, because it was literally, I was like, I can't be with her all day, every day. And I wasn't I was, I'm not saying like I was fully absent from her life, but you know what, I was really busy. And so I felt like, oh, okay, no, I'm the only one who can feed her, so she needs me for that. And thankfully, like, I have a nanny and who helped, and all of that was great, but I was the only one who was able to do that. And so that was hard for me to let go, because I was like, I have to get home because she's got to have her milk at 3:00, and I'm the only one who can do that. It's, we're just so hard on ourselves. And I think that through like these conversations, it's helpful, because had I actually voiced that to anyone and actually said it out loud, I probably would have been able to be easily like talked through that. But in my head, it was like, no, this is like all me. I'm the only person who can provide this for her. So
it's hard. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves. And I think sometimes moms can put pressure on each other and don't even realize it. Like, we had a meetup yesterday randomly at High Park, and it was just like, even just the way sometimes it's the milestone, like, is your baby doing this yet? And and if your kid is behind, whether it's on the growth chart or whatever, you can feel really anxious about that. So I'm always trying to be like, hey, let's talk about you. Like, how are you doing, mama? Like, let's not make it about like comparing, how did your birth go? Or did you have an epidural or not? It's just like,
Totally.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. No, it's really important. And I mean, we all know Hendrix not having any issues on the scale side of things. So
thankful. I'm grateful. I'm very grateful. Yeah, that is a blessing for sure. I don't have to worry about the chunker. We call him Stubbs because he's so short and stubby. Like he's he's like the marshmallow man.
I love it. Well, if anyone has any more questions, send them through. And I know we're getting to our time.
Yeah, I know. When are we getting kicked off, Mikey? He's like the gatekeeper. Is there going to be another countdown?
I know.
No, I hope so, because I really liked that. It was exciting.
Oh, feeling guilty about hiring a nanny. I'm starting around a bit. Okay, so it is really hard. You feel like you can be easily replaced, like I said, but you need to get past the guilt and take advantage of the fact that you are, fortunate enough to have that help, because it is an opportunity for you to be able to do the things more effectively for you. So in starting your own business, especially, and being able to take that time and be productive when you're working. And it's Shonda Rhimes did this whole thing around balance and juggling. It was a commencement speech. I highly recommend people go and listen to it, especially around this topic, because it's about the fact of dedicating yourselves to that task at hand. And so for me, and outside of COVID, it was that when I was at work, I I get nice pictures and things like that, but generally I was in it and I was committed to that. And the nights I had to be out for events or things like that, I did it. But I made sure then that I prioritized the 5 to 7, or if I could come home early, the windows with Piper, when it was just Piper, that I fully put my phone away and I was there and committed to that time and committed to her. And then being that I was my own boss, I'd take off a Friday or something if I felt like I was really absent that week. And I think that those, for me, are the ways, if I compartmentalize, you can kind of get over that mom guilt. But with a nanny, it's more so you're helping your daughter or son, because then you're not completely overwhelmed during those times of being able to, and being so fortunate that you can compartmentalize your life a little more. And I think that for me has been such a game changer.
I would totally agree with that, because we had a nanny for a year as well. And then now she's in daycare. But I just remember, yes, it's a huge expense and it's a luxury for sure. There's no question about it. But I will say I was home with the two of them trying to work for 2 months right after Hendrik was born. There was a lot of screen time.
100%.
It's so, and I remember just my temper was short, because of COVID and everything. So I have a 2-year-old and a 2-month-old at home, and I'm trying to run a business, and there's no one around. And it was hours of TV if I wanted to get anything done. And I tried, but that's bad. It's not good for, you do what you have to do, but it's not great to do that. And we all know, every day, day in, day out. And so, I echo what you're saying, Lex. You have to, it allowed me to you're going to have a proper playtime. You're going to do something stimulating for your brain that doesn't involve Paw Patrol. And then we're going to hang out and I can put my phone away,
Exactly. And even now, my husband and I have both we're on our third floor of our house in our offices. Mine's the bedroom, his is next door. Yeah, exactly. And so, and because I was finding I was getting to be that half-ass, and we took a moment, and this kind of leads into the supportive partners piece, I guess, but we took a moment to be wait, now with COVID and us working from home, this doesn't work, because the end of day was never the end of day. We weren't coming home from work. It all was bleeding into one. And we were noticing we were there when we normally would put our phones away for the 5 to 7 o'clock time. Now we were very much still on our phones, and things were just bleeding over. And we literally just 2 weeks ago, we're okay, we need to bring our offices up into these makeshift places. Yeah. And now go down around lunchtime, spend quality time, go back up, come down at the end of the day and actually spend quality time. So I think that's, a little important, and has helped for us for sure. We have a question around dads being supportive partners. What advice can you give?
I would say, just don't be afraid to for the women, don't be afraid to ask for help, because I think like we have to sometimes spell it out. Like we can't expect men to be telepathic and know what we need. And showing appreciation, as much as it might be hard when you're like, I just want you to know and intuitively what I need. You have to just be like, can you please do this for me? Thank you for doing this for me. And then I think usually they'll get it and they won't have to be asked a couple times after that, right? It's just like educating in a way, saying like, this would be really supportive if you brought me a glass of water while I am breastfeeding, you know, like for example. So yeah, I would say, for the guys too, like also try to be patient, and understand that like there's a huge identity shift that happens when a woman, not to mention hormones, becomes a mom. And so I think there needs to be a certain element of obviously like patience and compassion, right?
Absolutely. And I agree. The positive reinforcement is also very helpful. It's like, yeah, thank you.
Good job.
But and I agree. They can't read your mind, and it needs to be spelled out, and that's really important because I think we're both very fortunate. We have very supportive husbands and dads, but it needs to be spelled out at times, especially when it's like waking up in the middle of the night and you're so sleep deprived and you're still having to show up in other ways at work or whatever else you're doing in your life, and that gets to a breaking point if you're not in communication about that, and then all of a sudden you snap. It's better to kind of lead it up to that.
Totally. I'm like, I need you to go pick up milk at the store and do the daycare pickup today or whatever it is, rather than wanting them to just intuitively know that, I have to be like, please do this. And he's happy to help, but like, I often have to be the one that's like, hey, this needs
like the preempt. You wake up and you're like, this is going to be a day.
Yeah.
So you're just like, okay, just FYI, I'm a little on edge. This is I'm going to snap probably at some point. So FYI, it's coming. Heads up.
That's good. See, that's great. I love that. That just shows a lot of self-awareness, which I think a lot of us could really work to develop a little bit more. You were like, it's Mercury in retrograde. You're like, is my mic? This is all text before we went live.
Mercury in retrograde.
I'm tethering right now. My fucking Wi-Fi's, I hope I can swear, my Wi-Fi's not working. I was like, it's going to be okay.
Yeah. Exactly. This is Alana's podcast, Alana's MomFest, and you definitely can swear.
Yeah. Okay. Of course.
Coming on here is like, where's our Playdate wine? Like,
I know. I love that. So good.
But it's so fun, and I know Mikey said 3 minutes. So, I hope people found this really helpful. You can follow our We Go There podcast, like at We Go There podcast Instagram. We've just got it launched. Nikki's got her out there.
There's 2 posts right now. That's it. But there's more coming. I promise.
There's more coming, and then that'll give updates as to when the podcast is launching. Otherwise, and check out Wax On and South, our product line, Intimate Skincare, and then Nikki's The Belle Method. Like, if anyone is pregnant, postpartum, or like any and all of the stages, like, check it out. I swear, she's a master.
And I need to go and see you guys for some personal grooming. No.
We got you, girl. Well, thank you, everyone. I hope everyone enjoyed this.
Yeah, and you guys rock. You guys know where to reach us, I hope. So much love to all of you. Thanks for tuning in. I know that sometimes it's not easy to do that live during the day. So kudos for you for doing that and making some time for yourself.
Yes, seriously. I don't know if
we're just going to keep filling the dead air until we know when we're done. Normally we would be walking up a stage right now, but we're just going to keep talking.
Yeah, to a massive applause. Woo! Thank you. Thank you.